Need to speak with someone about the Aurelian Reproductive Initiative. I think I've been enrolled without proper consent. The receptionist's expression didn't change, name and visa number after verifying his identity. The receptionist sighed. In Mr. Frell, your participation was explicitly outlined in your visa application. All human males of reproductive age are required to participate as part of our bilateral agreement with the alien government. But furthermore, she continued, this program has been in place for 3 years with full Earth government approval. The benefits to human-alien relations have been substantial. Jacob felt his last hope crumbling. So there's nothing I can do. You can comply with the terms of your visa or return to Earth. Her tone softened slightly. For what it's worth, most participants report positive experiences after initial adjustment. Their Aurelians are thorough in ensuring mutual satisfaction. After ending the call, Jacob collapsed onto his couch, staring at the ceiling. 6 alien women, 6 potential alien offspring, all because he hadn't read the fine print. His doorbell chimed again. Visitor at entrance portal, the AI announced. Not again, Jacob groaned. Display visitor. This time the screen showed a tall, willowy alien with azure skin patterned with luminescent markings. Her eyes were completely black and what appeared to be delicate gill-like structures pulsed at her neck. Jacob Frell, her melodic voice came through their speaker. I am NYX Keldoran, your second assigned reproductive partner. May I enter? Jacob closed his eyes and counted to 10. It was going to be a very long day. I don't understand why you're being so difficult about this, Nick, said her gill-like structures fluttering with irritation. Most humans in the program consider it an honor. Jacob paced his living room, trying to keep his frustration in check. An honor to be treated like a prize stallion, to have my reproductive rights signed away without my knowledge. Your genetic material is valuable, as she replied, her black eyes tracking his movement. And the contract clearly states. I know what the damn contract states. Jacob snapped, then immediately regretted his outburst. I'm sorry, this is just a lot to process. NYXer's expression softened, their luminescent patterns on her azure skin pulsing in what seemed like sympathy. Perhaps I can help. I work in their Reproductive Initiative's Administrative Division. Jacob stopped pacing. You work for them? Then why are you part of the program? All eligible Aurelians must participate, she explained, but my position gives me certain insights into the system. What kind of insight? Jacob asked, suddenly interested. NYX glanced around, then lowered her voice. There are ways to navigate the bureaucracy loopholes, alternative compliance methods. Hope flickered in Jacob's chest. I'm listening. Not here, Nick said. Meet me tomorrow at the Central Archives. Bring your contract tablet. She rose gracefully. For now, I should leave 2 visits in 1 day would trigger a monitoring flag. After she left, Jacob collapsed onto his couch, mind racing. Could he trust her, or was this some kind of test? His contemplation was interrupted by a message notification. It was from Nidra. Preliminary compatibility exercises begin tomorrow. 900 hours. Wear flexible attire. Jacob groaned. He'd have to juggle Nidra's exercises and his clandestine meeting with NYX. Whatever those exercises entailed, he wasn't looking forward to them. The next morning, Nidra arrived precisely at 900, dressed in what appeared to be athletic wear, a form-fitting outfit that highlighted her crimson skin and athletic build. You're underprepared, as she observed, eyeing his casual clothes. You weren't exactly specific about what to expect. Jacob countered. Nidra's lips curved into that now familiar predatory smile. A physical compatibility assessment will begin with basic endurance testing. What followed was 3 hours of the most grueling workout Jacob had ever experienced. They ran through the city's elevated parks, performed strength tests at a high-gravity gym, and concluded with what Nidra called reflex calibration, essentially dodging small projectiles fired by training drones. By the end, Jacob was drenched in sweat and gasping for breath, while Nidra looked barely winded. Acceptable performance, she noted, making entries on her wrist device. Your cardiovascular capacity exceeds Projections glad to impress Jacob wheezed hands on knees the physical. Assessment is only the beginning, Nidra said. Tomorrow we evaluate psychological. Compatibility can't wait, Jacob muttered sarcastically after a quick shower and changed. Jacob headed to the central archives, an imposing structure of twisted metal and glass that housed Aurelian Governmental Records. NYX was waiting in a secluded corner of the vast main hall. You came, as she said, sounding slightly surprised. Did you think I wouldn't? Many humans initially resist, then accept their role, she explained, leading him deeper into the building. The benefits are substantial. So I keep hearing, Jacob said dryly. What's this loophole you mentioned? NYX guided him to a private research pod. A small soundproofed room with access to the archive systems. Once inside, she activated a privacy shield there. Initiative contract has 3 compliance pathways, she explained, bringing up documents on the screen. Most humans are only informed of the standard path, direct reproductive contribution, and their alternative, scientific contribution or a cultural exchange. Nick said, originally intended for humans with genetic abnormalities or advanced age. Jacob leaned forward eagerly, so I could switch to one of those. It's not that simple, Nick cautioned. You need approval from their initiative board, which requires a legitimate reason for exemption. Being forced into this against my will isn't legitimate enough, Jacob asked bitterly. NYXer's gill structures fluttered. Not according to Aurelian lore, no, but she hesitated. There's another option. A group of humans and sympathetic Aurelians has formed a network. They help participants navigate the system, find legitimate exemptions or transfer to less demanding roles. A resistance movement, Jacob asked, lowering his voice. Despite the privacy shield, we prefer advocacy collective, Nix corrected. Direct resistance would violate the contract we work within the system. Jacob studied her, trying to determine if this was some kind of trap. Why you telling me this? Why help me? NYXer's luminescent patterns dimmed slightly. Not all Aurelians support their initiative's methods. Some of us believe true compatibility cannot be forced. She met his gaze. And some of us have our own reasons to resist the reproductive mandates. Before Jacob could press further, his comm device buzzed with an incoming message from Nidra. Additional assessment required. Report to my residence at 18,800 hours. Problem, NYX. You've been matched with me, human. Your romantic duties start now, smirked the alien girl. The gleaming spires of new Talacer stretched toward the alien sky, a testament to the architectural prowess of the Aurelian species. Jacob Frell stared out his apartment window, still not quite believing this was his new home after years of grinding through Earth bureaucratic nightmare to secure an off-world visa. He'd finally made it to the promised land, a fresh start on a planet with actual opportunities. Apartment play news, he mumbled, patting barefoot across the temperature-regulated floor. Continuing our top story. The Aurelian Reproductive Initiative enters Phase 3 today, with the first human participants beginning their service. A skip, Jacob said, rummaging through his still unpacked crates for a clean shirt. He'd heard enough about their reproductive crisis facing the Aurelians: low birth rates, genetic stagnation, standard problems for advanced civilizations. Not his concern. The shower's sonic pulses had just finished cleaning him when the apartment chimed. A visitor at entrance portal, he announced. The AI. Jacob frowned. He knew exactly no one on this planet. Display visitor there. Wall shimmered to reveal a humanoid female with bright crimson skin that contrasted sharply with platinum white hair cascading past her shoulders. Her features were angular, almost predatory, with eyes that seemed to glow with an inner light. She wore what appeared to be a skin-tight black bodysuit with some kind of technological components embedded throughout, and she was unzipping it. What the hell? Jacob muttered hastily, pulling on a white tank top and boxer briefs. He hesitated, then shrugged. Whoever she was, she'd caught him at home. Not his problem if she saw him underdressed. Admit visitor, he commanded, curiosity overriding caution. The door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing the crimson-kinned woman in person. She was even more striking up close, her eyes of metallic silver that seemed to evaluate him like a specimen. "Can I help you?" Jacob asked, crossing his arms over his chest, the alien's lips curved into what could only be described as a predatory smile. Jacob, frail human. Male, age 32, Earth origin, visa classification XR7. She stepped forward uninvited, the door closing behind her. "I am Nidra. Tvaran Aurelian, female, reproductive compatibility rating 97.3%. Jacob took an instinctive step back. "Okay, and you're here because..." She reached up and continued unzipping her suit, revealing more crimson skin beneath. "You've been matched with me, human male. Your romantic tutty start now." Jacob blinked, his brain struggling to process her words. Your reproductive duties," she clarified, her accent giving the words an exotic lilt. "Did you not read your visa terms? Section 12, paragraph 7. Human males agree to participate in their Aurelian reproductive initiative as genetic diversity contributors." The blood drained from Jacob's face as fragments of the visa application flashed through his memory. He'd skimmed that section, assuming it was standard medical screening information. "I never agreed to." "You signed." Nidra interrupted, advancing on him with determined steps. "The initiative has matched us based on optimal genetic compatibility. We begin immediately." "Now hold on," Jacob protested, backing up until he hit the wall. "There's been a misunderstanding. I came here to work, not to contribute to your species gene pool." Nidra paused, head tilting curiously. "Your reluctance is noted, but irrelevant. The contract is binding." Her silver eyes narrowed. "Unless you prefer deportation, the waiting list for Earth visas is currently 17 years. Jacob's mind raced. 17 years? He'd sold everything to get here. There was nothing to go back to. "Look," he said, trying to sound reasonable, "can we at least talk about this, maybe over coffee or something less immediate?" Nidra considered this the nodded one's acceptable preliminary. Social bonding may improve reproductive outcomes. She rest-zipped her suit partway and gestured to his state of undress. "You should prepare yourself appropriately. I will wait." As Jacob hurriedly dressed, his mind whirled with panic. What had he gotten himself into, and more importantly, how many more matches were coming his way? Little did he know Nidra was just the first of many. So let me get this straight," Jacob said, clutching his coffee mug like a lifeline. "I'm supposed to mate with how many Aurelians exactly?" They sat at a sleek cafe overlooking one of Newtalasser's artificial lagoons. The morning light caught the iridescent buildings, sending rainbow reflections dancing across the water surface. It would have been beautiful if Jacob wasn't having an existential crisis. Nidra sipped her steaming beverage, something that smelled like cinnamon but looked like liquid mercury. "The standard assignment is 5 to 7 females per human male. You've been allocated 6, including myself." Jacob choked on his coffee. 6. Your genetic profile is particularly valuable," she explained with clinical detachment. "Human males possess certain resilient qualities our species finds beneficial." "And what happens after?" "After we..." Jacob couldn't bring himself to finish the sentence. "After successful conception." Nidra's silver eyes gleam with amusement at his discomfort. "Their offspring will be raised within Aurelian family units. Your financial and time commitments are minimal, merely genetic contribution and the required bonding period." Jacob set down his mug before he could drop it. "And if I refuse, as I stated, deportation is the standard penalty for contract violation." She leaned forward, her voice dropping. "Though there are other consequences. Your species' presence here is probationary. Your compliance affects future human migration opportunities." "Great." So now he had the weight of human Aurelian relations on his shoulders too. "This is insane," Jacob muttered. "On Earth we don't just assign reproductive partners like breeding stock." Nidra's expression hardened. "Your primitive emotional attachments are noted but irrelevant. This is a scientifically optimized process." "Primitive?" Jacob felt a flash of anger. "There's nothing primitive about wanting to choose who you're intimate with an inefficient method that has led your species to numerous genetic vulnerabilities. She countered. Our approach is superior. Jacob rubbed his temples. Look, I need time to process this. Can I at least get a copy of the full contract? I apparently agreed to. Nidra nodded, tapping her wrist device. Jacob's personal tablet pinged with an incoming document, all 347 pages of it. You have 48 hours to review, she said, standing abruptly. I will return tomorrow to begin preliminary compatibility exercises. Wait, Jacob called as she turned to leave. What exactly are compatibility exercises? Nidra's lips curved into that predatory smile again. Nothing your human physiology can't handle. Probably. With that cryptic response, she strode away, leaving Jacob staring at his tablet in dismay. Back in his apartment, Jacob paced frantically while scanning through the contract. The language was dense with legal jargon and alien concepts, but their basics were clear enough. He was contractually obligated to attempt reproduction with his assigned matches, or face deportation and possible sanctions against future human immigrants. This can't be legal. He muttered, searching for contact information for the human embassy. His call was answered by a bored-looking human receptionist. A human embassy? How may I direct your inquiry? I asked, noting his expression. Nidra wants to see me tonight. More compatibility exercises, I'm guessing. NYXer's black eyes widened. That's unusual. First assessments typically span 3 days. She seemed concerned. Be careful, Nidra Taran has a reputation for thoroughness. Great, Jacob muttered. Any advice? Don't refuse outright. That would trigger contract violation protocols, but you can request clarification or modification of any exercise you're uncomfortable with. NYX handed him a small data chip. If you're interested in the collective, this will guide you to our next meeting. As Jacob left the archives, he felt a strange mix of hope and apprehension. He now had options, but also complications, and something about Nidra's additional assessment made him nervous. What exactly was she planning for tonight? Nidra's residence was located in an exclusive district of New Talacer where their buildings seemed to defy gravity. Crystalline structures suspended between graceful arches connected by transparent walkways that glittered in the evening light. Jacob stood before her door, hesitating. After his conversation with NYX, he'd spend hours debating whether to even show up. The data chip with the collective's information felt heavy in his pocket. Before he could decide, the door slid open. Your punctuality is appreciated, Nidra said, standing in the entrance. She wore a flowing garment of iridescent fabric that shifted colors, with her movements far different from her usual utilitarian attire. You said additional assessment was required, Jacob replied cautiously. Indeed. As she gestured him inside. Please enter. The interior was surprisingly warm and inviting. Not the sterile clinical space he'd expected. Living plants grew along the walls, and soft ambient light created a comfortable atmosphere. A table was set with what appeared to be a formal dinner. This doesn't look like an assessment, Jacob observed. All interactions provide data, and Nidra replied, guiding him to the table. Tonight we evaluate social and cultural compatibility in a relaxed setting. As they sat down, Jacob noticed small details he'd missed before: the careful arrangement of the table, the subtle fragrance in the air, the soft music playing in the background. This wasn't just an assessment, it was a data. You seem confused, Anir noted, serving a luminescent blue liquid into crystal glasses. I expected more physical tests or medical scans, Jacob admitted. Not this. A hint of amusement crossed Nidra's features. The initiative isn't solely concerned with biological compatibility. Successful pairings require multifaceted harmony. The meal that followed was surprisingly pleasant. The food, a careful selection of dishes compatible with human physiology, was delicious, and the conversation flowed more easily than Jacob had anticipated. Nidra asked thoughtful questions about Earth culture and seemed genuinely interested in his responses. You're not what I expected, Jacob said after his second glass of the blue beverage, which had a pleasant warming effect. What did you expect? Nidra asked, her silver eyes catching the light. Someone more clinical. Cold Jacob hesitated, then decided honesty was the best approach. You seem very procedural when we first met. Initial encounters follow protocol, she explained. Subsequent interactions allow for individual adaptation, so this is the real you, Jacob asked, studying her. Something flickered across Nidra's face, a brief vulnerability quickly masked. This is an aspect of me, yes. As the evening progressed, Jacob found himself reluctantly enjoying Nidra's company. She was intelligent with a dry wit that emerged as she relaxed when she spoke about her work in xenobiology. Her passion was evident. After dinner, she led him to a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons of the planet cast a silvery glow over the landscape, and distant ships moved through designated flight paths like luminous fish in a cosmic sea. It's beautiful, Jacob said, genuinely impressed. Yes, Nidra agreed, standing beside him. Many humans find our world aesthetically pleasing. Is that why you brought me out here? Another box to check on your compatibility assessment. Nidra turned to face him, her expression unreadable. Not everything is protocol, Jacob fell. Something in her tone made him look at her more closely. For the first time he saw uncertainty in her silver eyes, a glimpse beneath a confident exterior. She maintained. What do you mean? He asked quietly. Nidra seemed to struggle with her words. Unusual for someone normally so precise. The initiative has strict guidelines. I follow them because they are logical, efficient. As she paused, but efficiency is not everything. Before Jacob could respond, Nidra stepped closer. There is another assessment protocol, as she said, her voice lower, one that measures physical intimacy compatibility. Jacob tensed. I'm not ready for that. To his surprise, Nidra nodded. I'm aware, that is why I have not initiated it. She hesitated again. Their protocol allows for gradual progression. Tonight was step one, the admission that she was deliberately taking things slowly, perhaps even bending the rules, shifted something in Jacob's perception of her. Thank you, he said simply. They stood in companionable silence for a moment before Nidra spoke again. You met with NYX Keldoran today after our assessment. Jacob stiffened. You're monitoring me? All participants are monitored during initial integration, Nidra stated matter-of-factly, for safety and compliance. That's invasive, Jacob protested. That is protocol, she countered, then added more softly, though perhaps not all protocols are equally necessary. Jacob studied her, trying to read between the lines. What are you saying? Merely that your activities are your own, provided they don't violate contractual obligations. Her eyes met his directly. I am not your keeper, Jacob Farrell, only your primary match. The subtle message was clear. She knew about his meeting with NYX, but wasn't reporting it. Why? Before he could pursue that question, his comm device buzzed a message from an unknown sender. Collective meeting location changed. Security concerns. Check secure channel. Jacob tried to keep his expression neutral, but Nidra noticed his reaction. You should go, she said, stepping back. Tonight's assessment is complete. That's it, Jacob asked, surprised by the abrupt conclusion. For now. Something like a genuine smile briefly touched her lips. Further assessments will follow at an appropriate pace. As Jacob left Nidra's residence, his mind was a whirlwind of confusion. The evening had completely upended his perception of her. Was this all part of some elaborate strategy, or was there something genuine in their interaction? He checked the secure channel on his communication device. The collective meeting had been moved to an underground establishment in the city's older district. Following the directions, Jacob found himself outside what appeared to be a maintenance facility. After verifying his identity through the data chip NYX had given him, he was admitted to a hidden room where about 20 beings, mostly humans with a few aliens, were gathered. NYX approached him immediately. You came, good. We were concerned when the monitoring alert went out. Monitoring alert, Jacob asked. Your meeting with Nidra triggered a security flag in the initiative system, she explained. It's unusual for primary matches to accelerate the intimacy protocol. She wasn't accelerating anything, Jacob said, feeling strangely defensive. It was just dinner. NYX's gill structures fluttered in what might have been skepticism. And Nidra doesn't just do anything, she's one of the initiative's chief architects. This revelation hit Jacob like a physical blow. What she never mentioned that, of course not, said a human male who joined their conversation. I'm Ethan, by the way, been in the program 2 years. He extended his hand, which Jacob shook automatically. Nidra's notorious for her dedication to the initiative. If she's taking a personal interest in you, it's not a good sign. What do you mean? Jacob asked, unease growing in his stomach. It means Nick said quietly that you've been flagged as a high-value participant. Your genetic profile must be exceptional, which means they'll be watching you more closely, Ethan added, making escape much harder. Jacob looked around the room at their other participants, noting their expressions of sympathy and concern. So what exactly does this collective do? Help people escape. We help people regain agency, Nick's corrected, through legal means whenever possible, contract renegotiation, role reassignment, or in extreme cases, expedited completion. Ethan grimaced. Fulfilling your contractual obligation as quickly as possible so you can exit the program. It's intense but effective. Jacob felt overwhelmed just when he'd started to see Nidra as a person rather than a threat. He learned she was deeply embedded in the system he was trying to navigate, and yet she'd essentially given him permission to pursue alternatives. I need to think, he said finally. This is a lot to process. Nix nodded understandingly. Take time, but not too much. With your elevated status, the initiative will be accelerating your integration schedule. As Jacob left their meeting, his comm device buzzed again. Another message from Nidra. Third match scheduled for introduction tomorrow, 1100 hours. Be prepared. The game was accelerating whether he was ready or not. Jacob's third match arrived precisely at 1100 hours, unlike the relatively humanoid appearances of Nidra and NYX. This Aurelian was strikingly alien, tall and imposing, with metallic gold skin, forearms, and a ridge of what looked like hardened plates running down her spine. Her eyes were vertical slits of deep amber. Jacob Frell, is she stated rather than asked, her voice resonant and commanding. I am Commander Vex, Corps Marine Military Genetics Division. Military Genetics Division. That was new information and concerning. Come in, Jacob said, trying to mask his unease. Vea strode into his apartment with military precision, her movements fluid despite her imposing physique. She didn't sit, instead remaining standing as she assessed him with clinical detachment. Your genetic profile is exceptional, as she said without preamble, particularly the markers for adaptive immunity and cellular regeneration. Jacob crossed his arms defensively. So I've been told, though no one's explained why that matters so much to the alien government. Vex amber eyes narrowed. You haven't been fully briefed? Apparently not, Jacob replied dryly. She seemed to consider something, then made a decision. The standard introduction protocols are inefficient. I prefer directness. She activated a holographic display from her wrist device. This is classified information. Your cooperation requires informed consent. The hologram showed what appeared to be medical data, cellular structures breaking down and reforming in disturbing patterns. What am I looking at? Jacob asked. A genetic degradation, Vex explained. Either Aurelian species is dying, Jacob Frell, not individually but collectively. Each generation becomes less viable than the last. Jacob frowned. I thought this was about low birth rates. That is the public explanation, Vex said dismissively. The truth is more complex. Our advanced genetic engineering created unforeseen consequences, cascading mutations that our science cannot reverse, and humans are the solution. Jacob asked skeptically. Partial solution, she corrected. Human DNA contains primitive but robust repair mechanisms. Our species has lost. The initiative isn't merely about increasing our population, it's about saving it. The revelation landed like a physical weight on Jacob's shoulders. This wasn't just bureaucratic overreach or cultural differences, it was existential for the Aurelians. Why keep this secret? He asked, Vex expression hardened. Politics. Fear not all Aurelians accept the necessity of genetic integration with other species. Some would rather pursue technological solutions, even if those paths lead to extinction. Jacob processed this information, connecting it to what he'd learned from NYX and the collective There are factions within your government. Yes, Vex confirmed. The purists oppose the initiative, the pragmatists supported the military ensures survival by any means necessary. The implication was clear and chilling. And which faction are you with? Commander Vex, amber eyes fixed on him with predatory intensity. I serve Aurelian survival, nothing more. Nothing less. She deactivated the hologram. Your genetic contribution is vital, Jacob Frell, more vital than you can comprehend. And if I refuse? Jacob challenged, though he already suspected the answer. Refusal is not an option, Vex stated flatly. The collective you've been fraternizing with may suggest alternatives, but they are misinformed about the urgency of our situation. Jacob felt a cold shock. You know about their collective, of course. We allow it to exist as a pressure release valve. Controlled resistance is preferable to chaotic rebellion. This was getting worse by their minute. If the military knew about the collective, was anyone truly safe? Was NYX aware her group was being monitored? What exactly do you want from me? Jacob asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Accelerated compliance. Vex replied, your scheduled matches will proceed, but with expedited timelines. Your genetic material will be harvested regardless of your personal comfort with the process. That sounds like a threat, Jacob said, anger rising to replace his fear. It is a statement of fact. Vex corrected, however, willing participation yields better results and greater privileges. She moved toward the door. Consider your options carefully, Jacob Frell. I will return in 3 days for your decision. After she left, Jacob immediately tried to contact NYX, but his communications were blocked. He tried Nidra next, surprised when she answered immediately. We need to talk, he said without preamble. In person, not here. Nigra's expression revealed nothing. The Central Park Northern Observation Deck 1. The connection ended. Jacob arrived early, scanning the area for surveillance. The observation deck overlooked the vast artificial ecosystem of the Central Park, where Aurelian and imported earth flora created a lush landscape. Despite its beauty, Jacob could focus only on the bombshell. Vex had dropped. Nidra appeared silently beside him. You've met Commander Vex. You knew? Jacob accused. You knew this wasn't just about birth rates. Nidra admitted without apology. The information is compartmentalized. Participants are informed on a need-to-know basis, and you didn't think I needed to know my DNA is being harvested to save your species from extinction, Jacob demanded, keeping his voice low. Despite his anger, would it have changed your situation? Nidra countered, the contract is binding regardless of your awareness of its purpose. Jacob gripped the railing, knuckles white. She threatened me, said my genetic material will be harvested regardless of my consent. Something flickered in Nidra's silver eyes, concern, perhaps even anger that exceeds her authority. The initiative requires ethical compliance, does it? Jacob challenged, because from where I'm standing, nothing about this program is ethical. You tricked humans into signing away their reproductive rights. We offered a fair exchange, Nidra insisted. Opportunity for contribution. Opportunity. Jacob laughed bitterly. Earth is dying. Nidra, resources depleted, climate collapsed. You knew desperate people would sign anything to escape. That's not opportunity, it's exploitation. Nidra fell silent, her crimson features unreadable. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter. You're not wrong. The admission surprised him. What the initiative began with ethical principle, she said, equal exchange, informed consent, but as our genetic crisis worsened, compromises were made. Military involvement was not part of the original design. Jacob studied her, trying to read between the carefully chosen words. Where do you stand in all this? You're one of the architects, right? Nidra's gaze met his directly. I believe in survival, Jacob, but not at any cost. She glanced around, then lowered her voice further. The military faction gains influence daily. Their methods are concerning. Why are you telling me this? Jacob asked, suspicious of her sudden candor. Because you have choices to make, as she replied, and those choices affect more than just you. Before Jacob could press further, his calm device vibrated with an emergency alert. Collective compromised. Avoid all known locations. Destroy contact devices. Jacob's blood ran cold. He showed Nidra, the message, the military faction is moving faster than anticipated, she said her. Usual composure slipping. We need to go now. Jacob questioned. Just safety is my responsibility as primary match, Nidra stated, but something in her tone suggested there was more to it than protocol. As they hurried from the park, Jacob spotted figures in military uniforms converging on their position. They're following us, yes, Nidra confirmed grimly. Commander Vex doesn't appreciate competition for what? Nidra pulled him into a narrow alley, moving with surprising speed for the future of our species. She activated her wrist device, and for how that future is achieved, a hidden door slid open in what had appeared to be a solid wall. Nidra pushed Jacob through it just as the sound of pursuit echoed behind them. Where are we going? Jacob asked as they hurried down a dimly lit corridor. Is somewhere safe? And Nidra replied, is somewhere we can talk freely about what happens next. As the door sealed behind them, Jacob realized he was now fully committed to whatever game Nidra was playing, a game where the stakes were apparently the survival of an entire species and possibly his own. The hidden passage led them through a maze of maintenance tunnels beneath Nuasar's gleaming surface. Nidra moved with confidence, suggesting she traveled this route before. Where exactly are we going? Jacob asked, struggling to keep up with her rapid pace. Research outpost Sigmar. Nidra replied without slowing. It's off the official grid. After nearly an hour of navigating the labyrinthine tunnels, they arrived at what appeared to be an abandoned maintenance hub. Nidra placed her palm against a nondescript wall panel which scanned her hand and revealed a hidden elevator. Impressive security, Jacob noted as they descended. A necessary security, Nidra corrected. What I'm about to show you violates at least 7 Aurelian laws. The elevator opened into a state-of-the-art laboratory complex bustling with activity. Most of the researchers were Aurelian, but Jacob spotted a few humans among them. All wore the same unmarked grey uniforms. Welcome to the resistance, and Nidra said, a hint of pride in her voice. The real one, not the collective's well-meaning but ineffective advocacy. Jacob stared in disbelief. You're part of a resistance, but you helped create the initiative. Precisely why I'm uniquely positioned to fix it, Nidra replied, guiding him through the facility. I designed the original program as a voluntary exchange, mutually beneficial genetic collaboration between species. The military faction perverted it into what you experienced. They entered a large central chamber dominated by advanced biotechnology. Holographic displays showed complex genetic sequences being manipulated in real time. This is our answer to the genetic crisis, Nidra explained, a targeted gene therapy that repairs the cascading mutations without requiring forced breeding programs. If you have this technology, why continue the initiative at all? Jacob asked. A new voice answered from behind them. Politics, of course. Jacob turned to see Nick approaching, looking relieved too. See him, you're safe, he said. I got the alert about the collective being compromised. A calculated revelation. NYX explained, we leaked information about the advocacy collective to draw attention away from the real resistance. Jacob looked between the two alien women. You're working together, but you seemed at odds. Appearances unnecessary. Nidra said, NYX's position in administration gives us access to crucial data. My position as initiative architect provides scientific credibility, and my position as your match give me reason to monitor you without suspicion. Nix added. Jacob felt a surge of anger. So I've been manipulated from all sides. Was anything genuine? Nidra's silver eyes met his directly. Our dinner was not protocol, Jacob. Neither was my warning about Vaxum. Before Jacob could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. Perimeter breach, announced an automated voice. Security compromised in Sectors 3 and 4. They found us faster than anticipated, Nick said, her gill structures fluttering anxiously. How? Jacob demanded. Did they track us? Nidra's Expression-hardened number, we have a traitor. She activated her wrist device. Initiate protocol Omega evacuation in 3 minutes. The laboratory erupted into controlled chaos as researchers began securing data and destroying physical evidence. We need to move, Nidra told Jacob, leading him toward a rear exit. This facility is compromised. Wait, Jacob protested. You still haven't explained what you want from me. Why involve me in all this? Nidra pours her crimson features intense because your genetic profile isn't just compatible with Aurelian's. Jacob, it's the key to making our gene therapy work for the entire population. What does that mean? It means NYX interjected that you could help save our species without the military's breeding program. One donation of your genetic material freely given could synthesize the therapy for millions. Their implications stunned Jacob. One donation, that's all you needed? Then why their elaborate matching program? The military faction believes controlled breeding produces more stable results. Nidra explained they're wrong, but they controlled the initiative. Now another alarm sounded more urgent than the first. We're out of time, Nick said. Military forces have breached the main lab. Nidra made a quick decision. NYX, take Jacob to the secondary site. I'll delete the remaining data and follow. No, Jacob said, firmly, surprising both Aurelians. I'm tired of being shuttled around without a say. If my genetics are so damn important, I deserve to know exactly what's happening. Nidra's expression softened slightly. You're right, but this isn't their time or place for full disclosure. Make it the time, Jacob insisted. Simplified version now. Nidra exchanged glances with Nix, then nodded. Your DNA contains an unusual mutation that allows for accelerated adaptation without cellular degradation. It's the missing piece in our therapy. With it, we can create a treatment that allows Aurelians to repair their genetic damage without human Aurelian hybridization, and the military faction doesn't want this because it would end their control over the reproduction program, Nix explained, and because some believe hybridization offers military advantages, stronger soldiers, enhanced capabilities. Commander Vex being one of them. Jacob guessed are the most dangerous one. Nidra confirmed. She doesn't just want to save our species, she wants to enhance it, create a new generation of Aurelian human hybrids with the best traits of both species. The sound of weapons fire echoed from the main laboratory. Decision time, Nidra said. Urgently come with us, voluntarily help us perfect the therapy, or what? Jacob challenged. You'll force me just like they would. No, Nidra said firmly, we'll help you escape New Talacer entirely back to Earth or another colony world. The offer surprised him. You'd let